Your Excellency, Lenchin Dasho Sring Togge, Honorable Miji Sokpin, Speaker of the National Assembly, Honorable Foreign Minister, Honorable Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Minister of Economic Affairs, and Honorable Minister of Finance on the last seat on the dais. Distinguished Reverend Lamas and Tikus, distinguished guests from both within the country and abroad. Your Excellency, Honorable Prime Minister, I'm very pleased to report that all the 177 foreign participants who registered by September 15th, when we closed the admission to this conference, have arrived in our country very safely. The number would have increased if we kept it open. This is an indication of the attraction of GNH. Even though this time the theme of the conference is highly restrictive. It is not GNH in general, but it's about the application of GNH to enterprises or corporation or business. So it's about the dialogue between GNH and business, and that restricts the participation. Nevertheless, the enthusiasm that it has generated right at the beginning is an indication of how far this initiative could go under the impetus that Your Excellency has given to this cause. I remember very distinctly, and without any anticipation from my side, that on June 26th, 2013, when His Excellency the Prime Minister first visited our humble office, this was one of the priorities he set out for our office. It took some time for us to do anything on the ground, but it is a sort of, the root of whole thing is in the mind of the Prime Minister himself. So it must give some satisfaction to His Excellency the Prime Minister to see this come to this point today with almost 200 foreign participants and 200 Bhutanese participants. The 400 is an arbitrary number that is limited by this hall. We cannot fit anything more than this, otherwise it could have been a bit larger. So, Your Excellency, I'm very personally also happy that this is happening today to start the game, so to speak. And as I suggested yesterday evening, that by the end of the February, the proposed GNH of business, which we are starting today discussing with your valuable inputs, should be completed. And I hope that the government can come to a decision on how exactly it will be applied, implemented, and put into effect through procedures, norms of the government. Almost all the participants, Your Excellency, reached here yesterday at 3 p.m. So I'm very conscious that of the fact that the level of your energy and attention may be a bit disturbed by lack of sleep due to jet lag and such things. As distinguished participants and a good proportion of the Bhutanese know very well, one of the new things that is occurring is inadequate sleep. And this is a kind of fueled also by travel all over the world, more and more travel by people. As all of you know, and as research tells us, for most of history, people slept 10 hours in 24 hours. 10 hours they slept. And then gradually, as we began to urbanize, introduce light through artificial illumination, so on and so forth, one thing we began to lose self-control is getting less and less sleep and get exhausted completely by entertainment and other leisure works. The global population is getting very tired now due to lack of sleep. And in GNH, we are also very conscious of the relationship between complete restfulness as represented by sleep and well-being. And one of the clear findings which has been ascertained repeatedly in our past 4 surveys is that there is an increasing percentage of the population who are sleeping less than 7 hours, sir. And this is something which we can address without spending much money. It won't require budget escalation, but we have to tell people how to take care of themselves. The arrival of TB, thanks to the government's very bold, very humanitarian idea of delivering electricity for all, which has been realized in this country, is a marvelous goal we have achieved. At the same time is promoting dissipation of energy and attention on useless TV programs. I think this is a global phenomenon. But one of the costless campaign and reordering of use of time by people in this country towards GNH, well-being, good health, could be really on this aspect of time use, My somewhat long digression into this topic is just to bring to your attention that today may not be the best day for us to discuss very serious things because of your jet lag. It's very difficult for attention to be clear on a day like this. You can't capture new information very well. You can't recall very speedily things. Nevertheless, I noticed that everybody was here by 8:30. I came at only 8:30, but everybody was here by then, which meant you must have got up around 6 o'clock or 6:30. So thank you very much. Thank you very much. By way of saying a word for those of you who are here for the first time, you notice that our Prime Minister and his colleagues were heralded by a small procession. this kind of procession we find in literature of ancient Bhutan was there for a long, long time. When the BIPs moved, when they arrived in a new destination, they were heralded in this manner. But we just wanted to show you a little bit of this kind of aspect of tradition to indicate one or two things. One is that when you come to a new culture, usually the first striking thing is that you are entering into a new ecosystem of color and sound. You notice that already. Although I don't represent anything about that. He said, look at this, manufactured textile. So, and then this is actually escort. These 4 people were escorts of traditional or the civilian ruler of Bhutan. When he moved around, the escorts used to move alongside his horse, a riding horse. And that would also keep away the crowd a little bit further while entertaining them at the same time. Not just like modern security who just threaten you and entertaining, sensory information is passed. And then you saw the libation ceremony, very brief one we saw. This is an abridged version of, in a humble way, of seeking merit for the situation and for the initiative you are about to launch. And that cannot be done by just always thinking of human interest, human point of view. So you see also that the person who offered the libation went out, and it is just to offer a drop of the essence of human survival, that is food and drink, and that is being offered to the beings which has come into existence through various means, through conception, through heat, so and so forth, through 4 ways of coming to existence. They are remembered, and then for a moment we allow our consciousness to think about other beings, visible and invisible, bacterial, mammals, whatsoever, and we are momentarily thinking that they participate in the drink and the food, that sort of things. So that's what you notice. But we also need merit and broad-mindedness in now sort of thinking about initiating GNH for business. We need opening, truly opening. Otherwise, this interpenetration cannot occur. Business will always think that it exists for some purpose, government for some other purpose, CSOs for some other purpose, but we need to now come together. And this was the key idea of His Excellency, the Prime Minister, when he visited our office in 2013, that government, due to the creative influence of 4th King of Bhutan and sustained by the 5th King, government has taken a small step in applying GNH to policy making. But that goes as far as the government's money go, programs, policies, and to the public through media and education to some extent. But its direct influence is rest only on the public investment that is planned by the government. But there is a large sector. There's the business sector, which also needs to be brought into play of creative GNH force. And so this was the idea of His Excellency, the Prime Minister. In this respect, I am so happy that he could spare his precious time. As I said, there are personal, official, and many other draw on his attention and energy, and for him to, in this kind of circumstance, both personal and official, that he would think of coming here. He would also think of his own things to say and share with us, is a great indication of his focus on this new aspect of GNH. It's a new aspect, the GNH of business. And just to say a word about himself, I'm sure, of course, all of you have seen TED Talks of His Excellency, his biography, and so on and so forth. But His Excellency and his team, except Honorable Speaker, I must say, represents the new generation of leadership in this country. But without any bias against the old generation of leadership. The old generation, though they have studied in universities that are essentially Western, carrying Western viewpoints, and so on and so forth. Until 1980s, that was the case all over the world. It's only now that universities have striven hard to become multicultural, develop Asiatic studies, Buddhist studies, this and that. But essentially, it was a Western sort of, it was a Western kind of endeavor of implanting Western views of the world and so on and so forth in the minds of anybody who study. So our old generation of leadership were like that, but they had been oriented enough by the great influence of the fourth king of Bhutan. But the new leadership came to some extent from various sectors of society directly, and it is both a strength and a trial also for all of us, that we have to make decisions rooted in popular aspirations, and that has to be melded together with some sort of a larger vision, not necessarily conceived, incubated by one person. That's the challenge. So nevertheless, I would like to say that His Excellency Prime Minister himself had worked for some 18 years in the government, and that was steered by the fourth king of Bhutan, first as the head of government and then as the head of state. Since 1998 to 2007, His Excellency worked in the government until 2007 and was actually director of vocational training, Department of Vocational Training in the Ministry of Labor. He rose to that position in the civil service, allied with his qualification, and that qualification was mechanical engineering, a bit like Russian and Chinese leadership today, who are full of engineers. Mechanical engineering from Pittsburgh University, United States. Very unlike Indian leadership, which is all oriented towards social science, for example. So we are very happy that this kind of combination of technocratic and social science vision is embodied in His Excellency. As an objective statement, I'm not boasting. I like to also add that His Excellency did MBA in Harvard University. So nothing better could be aspired from the point of view of higher education in our governance. After 18 years in civil service, His Excellency has been in Parliament now for almost 10 years. And I think it's no flattery to say It's no flattery to say. I'm not being pressured by the situation to say favorable things. I'm not that sort of person whatsoever, as people know. I'm happy to say that a popular rating, though there is no public opinion polls in this country, I sometimes feel like CBS should do it, but hesitate. But I would like to say that popular rating of the government led by His Excellency could probably be in the 80s and 70s, that sort of level. So with this brief introduction, I would like to say with great satisfaction to enjoy the address by His Excellency the Prime Minister. Thank you, sir.